In this video, we'll learn how to make some bouncy springboards. Let's start by creating the scene for our springboard. So up at the top here, let's click the plus icon to add a new scene. And over on the left, we'll create our root node for the scene, which will be an area 2D. Then as a child for the area 2D, I'll right click, add child node. We'll have a couple, so we want an animated sprite 2D. We also want to go and add a collision shape 2D. And lastly, we'll also go and add an audio stream player 2D. So we'll start with the animated sprite 2D. So if we select that on the left and then on the right, go over to animation, select sprite frames, new sprite frames, and click on sprite frames. Now we'll add our first animation in. So we'll click on the add animation button. Then in the assets folder, I've gone into the pixel adventure assets, traps, and trampoline. And I'm going to start by selecting the idle animation. So I'll open that. Now we select our frames. There's only one sprite in here. So this is just going to be one on horizontal and one on vertical. Select it and add the frame. I will rename the animation to idle, and I will also set this animation to autoplay. Now, just to the left of that, we can click the add new animation button. I will rename this one to bounce, and with bounce selected, I will go to the add frames button and we'll choose the jump animation and open. Now we'll zoom in and we'll separate these out. So horizontally, we have 8 different sprites, and vertically there is just one row, so that's fine. Now select the frames in order from left to right and add the frames. Now I'll press F to center, scroll in, and I will preview the jump animation. So I definitely want that to be faster, so I'm going to increase the FPS. I think we'll go with 20 FPS for now and see how that looks later. Now I'll click back onto the idle animation, and I'm going to drag the sprite up to the horizontal line. Now I'll select my collision shape 2D, and over on the right I will select a new rectangle shape, and we'll drag the collision shape around the base of our spring. Just like that. Over on the left, I'll rename the area 2D to spring, and I will save the scene. Make sure it gets saved in the scenes folder, and click save. Now let's go to our spring up here, and right click, and we will attach a script. Make sure to select the scripts folder as well here, so scripts, and it's called spring, that's fine. Open that, and click create. Now we can get rid of these default functions here, and what we'll do is we'll make sure we've got spring selected over on the left here, go to node over on the right, then double click the onBody entered signal, and connect it. Then go and select the animated sprite 2D option, and in the node section double click the animation finished signal and connect that as well. So next in the script, let's make a reference to our animated sprite 2D. So if we go to the left, click and drag, hold Control and let go. And we're also going to do the same for the audio stream player. Click and drag, hold Control and let go. Now in our onBody entered function, what we're doing is we're going to check if the player touches the spring, and if they do, we want the spring animation on the sprite to play. So we'll say if body.name equals player. Then we want the animated sprite 2D to play our bounce animation that we made. Now, when that bounce animation plays, we need to swap back to the idle animation once it's finished. So that's what this is for. So we're saying that when an animation has finished, we can trigger this signal. So we'll check that if the animated sprite 2D.animation is the bounce animation, then we will say animate sprite 2D.play idle. So all we're doing is whenever an animation finishes, we trigger this signal, and we're checking that if it's the bounce one that's finished, we're going to set the animation back to idle. So far, let's go and check this. If we go to our 2D scene, if we drag in one of our new springboards to test, we'll just drag it over here for now. Let's run the game. Okay, so we can see that the bouncing animation is playing infinitely, even though we added some code to say stop. Now, the reason for that is because we forgot to unloop the animation. So if I go back to the spring and go on animated sprite 2D, then select the bounce animation, I will click here is the loop option. I'll turn that off. And if we go try the game again, there we go. Okay. So whenever I run in here, that bouncing up animation happens. But now what we want to do is we want the player to actually bounce up when they hit the springboard. So to do that, we're going to go to our script view, and we're going to start by selecting the player script. And it's going to be very much the same as how we did the bounce after we kill the enemy. So I'm actually going to copy and paste that, but I will change the function name to spring. And I will, instead of having velocity of -300, I want this to be a much higher jump. So I'll try -500. And then back in our spring script, when the bounce animation starts, we will also say body.spring. So that's referring to that spring function we just made. And let's try that. And there we go, our player is also jumping. So the last thing to do here is to add in the audio for this. So we'll go back to our audio stream player 2D, select the inspector, Then over on the left in our file system, we will look for the sound asset. So I'm going to go into brackets tutorial assets, sounds, and I'm going to use the power up sound for this because it sounds well matching. I'll swap the bus down here to sound effects. And now we already made our reference to our audio stream player. So I will in here type in audio stream player.play. And if we run this now, we also have our bounce jumping sound. So now you can feel free to go ahead and place your springboard wherever you would like in your level, as that is the springboard completed. Now, as you can see, my player can't quite reach this top platform here, so I've got two options. I could either increase the jump height that is applied when I hit the spring, or I could just redesign my level to bring this platform down, or I could add another platform in the middle and add another springboard. It's up to you in designing your game what you want to do. Then finally, once you've added the springs and you're happy, don't forget, of course, to right click on your root node, and we'll create a plain node here and rename this to springs. And we'll drag our springs inside of this to keep everything nice and neat and organized and tidy.